Arganisima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganisima.com. Arganisima, New York. Your beauty.
Hello. Welcome back to the iHealth channel and iHealth Radio with your host, Hurricane H here. Hope everybody's having a great time, and we'll be starting a live show with Dr. Heim. This is Climb to Your Prime with Dr. Heim. Time for mental health. Please stay tuned with us and next 10 minutes and we get started. Get your questions ready. You can chat with us live. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, as well as Twitter. So if you have questions, send them over, or you can also join us in the discussion today. So getting ready for a great weekend, and nothing better to start a great weekend with some good mental health, positivity, and all the above. So stay tuned. Again, in a few minutes, we'll be starting with our guest of honor, the one, the only. We miss him once a month. We need him. He's with us, and that's Dr. Heim, all the way from the land down under, Australia, and Sydney specifically. So we're looking forward to his wisdom and insights, and we do have questions for him, but nothing's better than you guys calling in live and asking the questions yourselves. So let's see. Come on. You don't have to say your name. It's anonymous, so you can just be whoever you want to be and just ask the question. So let's make sure we do that, and let's get your any questions you have about that psychology or just life, how you can cope with things. You're going through tough times, everybody is. Let's see if you can get some insights through him. I mean, a lot of folks may be sometimes shy, and this is a good opportunity not to be facing anyone. You just have to call in. We don't know who you are, just say it and as you feel it, and get the answers you want. All right. Don't forget to download the iHealth Radio app, where you can listen to all the shows, also some nice music, and get some guidance, insights, enlighten yourself. I guess time to evolve, folks. Just be different, learn new things, and we have great guests and great shows, great content. So feel free to enjoy. And it is we got the one and the only Dr. Heim in the house coming up.
How are you, Jonathan?
Welcome. Long time. It's been a month.
It's been a month. Yes, it has.
Well, here's the great news. You're back to your beautiful shot in the back. I'm enjoying the bridge.
Oh yeah, we can only we're enjoying it too, even though it's a cloudy, rainy day here. How are you, Hurricane?
We've had some of those, like yesterday and today, but I'm doing great.
That's great.
Can't complain.
That's good.
Life is always good. You got to take it good, the bad, the ugly, and live with it, right?
That sounds wonderful.
How's how's your month been since we've talked?
Hurricane, in the world today, each month is a very interesting month.
We coming from you, I mean, that's very deep. you,
We aim to be deep on this show, Hurricane.
I know this is really like mind stuff, right?
Well, it is. It is because we've all only got one life. And one of the secrets to life is living life as though you're living it for the second time and you want to get it right this time. And that comes from a psychiatrist by the name of Viktor Frankl. And his idea behind that is that we try to make better choices. And that's what I feel we've got to do, Hurricane. We've each individually got to try to make better choices for a better life for ourselves and the people around us.
Well, choices are everything, right? We make a lot of choices in
Yeah.
life, some good, some bad. Hopefully more
Yeah,
good ones than bad ones. And
that's
but
right.
again, we learn from some, and we learn for everything actually, good, bad, but hopefully, the scale should go on the right side rather than the left
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
Well,
That's the aim.
it's been a rough month. I mean, with everything going on around the world, and
Yeah,
I know you probably have to deal with a lot of stuff with your own, path and your clients and patients and everything else. So, listen, it's a tough world. That's all I have to say.
it is. It's a very tough world, Hurricane. And rather than being overwhelmed by world events, the question is, how can each of us live the best life that we can to make a small difference to the people around us so that the aggregate effect is that the whole world moves in the right direction? I know that sounds idealistic, but that is all that we can do, the best that we can in our own lives.
Well, listen, we're here, we're alive. We have to be grateful, right? We have
Oh,
to
yeah.
enjoy every moment. Our folks, around us, the ones that love us, that we love, and enjoy life. I mean, there's plenty of beautiful stuff going on, and every day is a beautiful day. It's a new opportunity, and we just got to keep running. That's it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
At
is,
least
Hurricane.
that's my attitude. That's my attitude, and
That's a great attitude.
Hey, listen. Well, listen, doctor. I know we have a limited time, and I do have a few questions that already lined up, and then we'll see
Good.
if someone interacts with us. I mean, as you can see,
Wonderful.
they can chat with us. They have the number available to them, so they can dial in when they're ready. And
Yeah.
we'll start with the questions that I have from the previous. We have a few that were left over from last time, and we have a few that came through, and we'll see where it takes us. Are you
Fantastic,
ready?
Hurricane.
Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so the first one, and they're not in any particular order. I mean, I kept them as they came through. So, the first one: what makes people get easily influenced by the behavior of their entourage and circle of friends, whether good or bad? How does this process occur, and can I possibly achieve a level of control and not fall captive to this trap? Jennifer, Texas.
Okay, Jennifer in Texas, that is a wonderful, wonderful question. Because the question is actually, how can we be boss in our own brain? Because as individuals, Jennifer, we live individually, but we also live with people, and people around us can influence very greatly. In fact, I'll just add a little bit to that, Jennifer. The people around you are not just the people physically around you, but everything that you soak in from the internet as well. So the way that psychiatry looks at this is to ask the question, do you have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control? Now, I'll just explain what I mean by that. And people who have an internal locus of control are self-motivated. They decide what they want in their mind and they go out and do it. Whereas people who have an external locus of control are people who are very influenced by the people around them and what other people want to do. So let's say you get together with a group of friends and you go to the movies. If you are going to watch a movie that's a horror film that you know is going to give you nightmares for 2 weeks, and you say, oh, just to go along with the crowd, I'll do that. That's an external locus of control. The internal locus of control is if your friends say, okay, we're going to go see this movie, and you say, no, I'm not going with you to see a movie unless I get to see my movie. Well, that's a really strong internal locus of control. And the two extremes can get you into trouble because you want to get on with people, but you want them influencing you well. So what we look for in psychiatry is actually flexibility. Now, Jennifer, you asked, what can I do to change all of that, to make sure that I have more of an internal locus of control, because most people are actually too influenced by people around them and are too influenced by the media and the things that they hear on the internet. So it's rare that I get to hear, oh, I'm doing my own stuff far too much. How do I change that? What I hear the most is, I'm too influenced by the people around me. How do I change that? So you need a guiding set of values to help you make decisions. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is what I encourage everybody that I work with to do, to be armed with your own set of values. Know what you value in life and go towards that. So quickly, armed, A-R-M-E-D. A is ask yourself, what do I admire in myself and others? R, what do I believe is the right thing for me to do? M, what motivates my life to have meaning? E, when do I feel full of esteem, self-respect, and excellence? And D, this is a big one, okay? What if I was going to die in 1 year? What would be important to me? And can I put that in place? So when you answer those questions and you find out what your values are, and when you live by your values, you've got much more of a chance of saying yes to the things that you believe that you should be saying yes to, and to saying no to the things that you don't believe you should be saying yes to. All right, Hurricane, that was a little long-winded, but for Jennifer in Texas, I hope that helps.
Well, actually, I think that's powerful stuff. And frankly, you said it. I mean, we are all trapped, in a way. And we pretty much kind of guide ourselves through what other people are saying and how they want us. So that influence is big. And I mean, even we hear the word influencers today, and that could go in any extreme.
It certainly does. Yes.
It's a great deal. Some of it is great, some of it is bad. I mean, we can be considered same here, given good positive stuff, but there's different other influences that can be one way or the other. That, especially at a younger age, I don't know Jennifer's age, but that could be a whole different world for someone that may be younger versus someone that's maybe a little bit more wise and experienced in life. So, Doctor, what would you kind of, if we were to talk about just those extremes in terms of age groups, I mean, is there any particular advice that may vary from one versus the other, considering that there's maybe a younger, less wise or less experienced person versus somebody that's got the time and been around?
Yes, Hurricane, what you're saying is absolutely right. That the younger the person, the harder it is to live by your values. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Older people, and I hate going to generational effects, but these generational effects are real. Somebody who was born, let's say, before computer technology would have been more influenced by the values of the people directly around them. And also society about 60 years ago had a stronger set of values. It was basically God, country, and neighbor. And the values were set so that you were primed to think about what God would want, what your country would want, and what your neighbor would want from you. Now, in the last 60 years, we've gone through a huge revolution to tear down some of those traditional values. And some of the outcome of that is actually really good. And some of the outcome of that is less than good, right? And one of the reasons that it's less than good is because you're drawn to your own values. You need to be able to make these decisions yourself, which is why I encourage people to be armed with their own values, with those 5 questions. But there's another thing, Hurricane, and that is younger people have grown up with computer technology, and computer technology gets into your head a way that we have never had anything like this before in all of the human history. And what we have learned is that the brain is sometimes like a computer. If you feed it garbage in, you'll get garbage out. So for the sake of pleasure and entertainment, there are a lot of us that will actually feed our mind with garbage. And then we wonder why we are acting like garbage in the way that we are being towards other people. And we think that because it's fun and entertaining that it's okay. So the encouragement here is to have people again make choices about what you actually let into your brain as far as entertainment is concerned, all right? You're allowed to enjoy yourself, all right? Just be a bit discerning about how you actually do that.
Thank you, Doctor. Great advice. But I did want to just highlight something. Earlier we
Yeah,
mentioned choice.
yeah,
I mean, we do have that power, in terms of
yes,
selection of who, what, when, where, and so all these things actually I think are contributors to how we kind of get trapped or entrapped. And
yes,
so for our audiences and I think just in general, uh, doesn't matter what age. I mean, you still have the ability to make decisions and make changes to your circles.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and that's
yes,
a hard one though, because people sometimes, they feel bad. They think that those people are probably the best, choice that they made. And it turns out sometimes as things go along, you'd be like, oh my God, wrong circle, wrong people.
yeah,
And I'm into this whole thing with quotes and all about positivity and being
yeah,
in your own. And the more I read about that stuff, the more I see that there is options, and sometimes they're tough
yes.
choices and options.
Yes, yes. Okay, so you're talking about a circle of friends because you know what, Hurricane, friends are hard to come by these days. So
Yes.
you can't just blow away your friends and say, I don't want to be around you anymore, right? However, if you are somebody who is trying to give up, let's say using amphetamines in your life, and you are around a whole lot of people that use amphetamines, in that situation, it may actually be a good choice to say, guys, I can't be around you because I can't use that stuff. And we talk about the problem of being influenced by other people. But you know what, Hurricane, you and I, and Jennifer out in Texas, is also somebody who can influence other people. So if you actually take a stand for what you believe is right and say, you know what, I can't be around you because I'm giving up amphetamines, somebody in your circle of friends may say, you know what, I want to do that too. Can I be with you? Can we work on each other that way? And often there are a lot of unspoken things that people want to do, and they're afraid to talk about it because they're afraid they'll lose their friends. But Hurricane, your friends actually want a good ride through life as well. And the bottom line for anybody who is on, let's say, amphetamines, is they all actually want to give them up because they're all actually ruining their lives. Nobody really believes that being on amphetamines is giving you a better life because there's too much science that says that it isn't. So to what you're saying, yes, we're all easily influenced, but we are all influencers as well to the people around us, okay? And in that we have a responsibility because in the end, Hurricane, we just want to love each other and help each other get through life. And sometimes you've got the answer for a friend of yours as well.
And actually, that's powerful because you're right. I mean, sometimes if we depends how we position ourselves, we can be the helper. And yeah,
Yes,
sometimes it's easier to just escape and keep your own way. But maybe a good friend will not do that. You don't turn your back on your good friends. And
no,
again,
that's
but
right.
the key word being here, good friends. Again, that's
Good
as you said,
friends. Yeah,
they're hard to come by these days, right?
yeah,
Well, again, I won't even say that because I mean everybody's experience is different. And but
yeah,
in my experience in the whole life, I mean, I have a lot of good friends, and I have some very very close friends, and I have a lot of acquaintances, and which I
yeah,
consider friends. So it's just dependent who and what your relationship that you have with them, and it has different, I guess, implications. Some are closer, some you help more, some you're actually closer to, and you have a discussion with, and be able to soundboard each other, and some are just more
yeah.
distant. And again, I love everybody personally, so I'm good with everyone. So for all my friends, hey, you know, doesn't matter what level, we're all good, So just
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
I'm always here for everybody. And by the way, like for example, I use a tactic or a strategy as a personal life is that when someone reached out for information or even, by the way, sometimes it's not material. So sometimes we think that friends have to be always there just financially or other ways. You might not always be able to help financially, but you can help psychologically. You can help mentally. You can help them with just being there and listening to them, and not even like I think there was something I posted today, just a hug, or yesterday, just a hug can make
Yes.
a difference.
Yes, a
you know
hug makes a huge difference. Makes a huge difference, Hurricane. Uh, uh, I'm just going to put in a word of caution because this is what psychiatrists do, because everything that you said is very, very helpful. And we are there to help each other. We are there to love each other. But just a word of caution, particularly to young people who sometimes feel I can rescue a friend of mine who's, let's say, on drugs, all right? Because you've got to be a really strong person to be somebody who can help somebody else out of something as complex as amphetamine use. And perhaps your way of helping is to point them into the direction of a professional to say, you know what, you need a bit of professional help. Please get it. I'll be there to hold your hand or whatever it takes. But to feel that you can cure somebody else's drug addiction or whatever it happens to be, depression, anxiety, don't bite off too much more than you can chew, right? Because we can easily bring each other down rather than lift each other up. And quite frankly, Hurricane, that's what professionals are there for. We do know the best methods to get people out of really tight situations. And I'm talking about drug abuse, anxiety, and suicidal behavior. They're all really heavy things. And if your friends are into it, point them in the right direction rather than saving them yourself. You know?
Well, but doctor, that's exactly what you said is perfect. Meaning that the idea is you're not going to be able to help everyone, and there's things that are beyond you. It doesn't matter how experienced in life you are. To your point, by guiding them towards the right party, the right help, assistance, that in itself is helping them and supporting them, and that's an actual great way to do this. It's not. I mean, again, we're not alone in this world. There's plenty of solutions and resources. I think the problem is sometimes people think that I got this, I can do this, and I got you under my wing. But then sometimes you might not be as strong as the other person. Maybe you get pulled in. That's the other problem that can happen.
That's right. That's right.
It's a risk,
right.
and understand. But you said it. I mean, depending on your life experience. By the way, I think this happens to everybody. It doesn't matter what age.
Yes.
You can still fall into this
Yes.
this particular miss. Where you think that you got this, and then you're like, what the hell just happened? I just got caught into this little rip current, and now I'm stuck. So understanding the limits to what, like I personally have, I know how far I can go, and where I can stop, and I can say no, and I can say, well, you know what, this is not me, my specialty. Let me give you somebody that can help. And I think that just a lot of folks watching or listening right now can't certainly address that correctly. So, but thank you for that piece. That's a big unit right there to for our listeners.
Yeah, and Hurricane, you're using a swimming analogy there, which is actually very useful because society is in rough seas at the moment, and we're all swimming. And if we all need to swim in that together, and if we're hooked up to each other, then that's actually really good. That helps a lot. But if there is somebody who is going to be rescued, what a lifesaver actually does is firstly have to make sure that they stay safe, all right, which sometimes means pushing the person away to get them to a point where they will do what you need them to do. But otherwise, somebody in distress can bring the lifesaver down, and we don't want that. We all want to swim together well. Good analogy, Hurricane.
Well, they always say if you're going to rescue someone when they're drowning, you never go to the front. You got to come from the back and pull, and because otherwise you'll be just pulled down. I mean, there's a whole technique about how to save someone, and definitely rip current. By the way, I did experience rip current personally, and I know it wasn't fun. I was sucked out, into the sea, and it was bad. So I'm talking real life, and that was a bad thing. So
I'm in Australia. I've experienced that too. Okay, so that's
there you go.
The problem.
And that works in life as well. So the wrong current can take you to the wrong places. But all right, doctor. So the next question, and actually it's amazing because this is actually about the conflict. So the current conflict worldwide. So considering the ongoing conflict, a couple of questions come to mind. How can individuals such as leaders decide the fate of the world, decide to go on conflict, and the rest of the people simply have to accept, surrender, and follow? How does such a decision happen in the mind? Is there an actual psychological explanation? Next part of the question, why do people choose to follow? And in this case, I'm referring to soldiers and supporters of such decisions who have no remorse or shame. Jenny, Florida. It's a pretty deep question. Complex, I think.
Yeah, Hurricane, can you repeat the part about soldiers not having remorse or shame?
Yeah, so it says, why do people choose to follow, I guess, the leaders? And in this case, she is referring to soldiers and supporters of such decision. I mean, the people that support the conflict, or that actually go. Leaders are, leaders. They have troops and they command them and they do things, and it's always been historic, right? So I think that's what she's probably referring to. And why do they support such decisions? Who have no remorse or shame? I guess
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's the leaders, or
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a great question. It's a very complex question. It goes right to the heart of what makes us human. Okay, so yes, we're in the midst of another dreadful conflict. And this dreadful conflict, unfortunately, Hurricane, is about the same as the conflict that we had in World War II, the conflict in World War I. It's the same as when Alexander the Great wanted to conquer the world, when the Mongols wanted to conquer the world. Or when Genghis Khan wanted to conquer the world. A strange thing happens to human beings when they get into positions of power. When a human being gets into a position of power, they start thinking that they are superior to other human beings. And they start thinking that the ideas that they have must be superior to the people around them. And unfortunately, Hurricane, we do have enough evidence to show that power does corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so we get to the heart of each of us, and each of us battle between being a very selfish being, doing things just for ourselves, and being part of the human herd, being part of all of society so that peace can actually reign in all of society. And each of us want to make the choice. And here's the thing, while we are powerless, we tend to make the choice for the human good. The more power that we are given, the more influence that we are given, the more we get this crazy idea that the ideas that I have, or that I as a person am superior to the people around me. And so what happens then is the power starts to say to the individual, do what you want, do what's best for you. And if you're the leader of a country and you believe that you're doing what's best for your country, then you actually start to justify your own evil decisions. And those things are going on. And Hurricane, because they go on in the heart of all of us, we haven't solved it for the world stage yet. So you'll see a lot of analysis on the personality of Hitler. How could somebody do something like that? Or the personality of Napoleon. How could somebody do something like that? And so with all leaders, we're going to end up with this situation. We can only admire people who end up in positions of power and actually use that for good, not for themselves, but for the whole of humankind. And so we're hoping in this situation that we have enough leaders that will band together to do the good, because we actually do want world peace. But all that it takes is one person in a position of power to want world domination to stuff it up for the rest of us. And if it wasn't the one person that it is at the moment, it'd be somebody else. So this is why it's a very difficult thing in humans to actually overcome.
Doctor, it's very amazing that, to your point, it's one person or the other. There's always one, right? Or a few, that are willing to do this. And again, I'm sure they're convinced of their righteousness at any given moment. And I'm not even taking any side of the conflict, but at the end of the day, it's just the fact that either party, to your point, we want peace. Most of the people we ask them, they don't want war. But then I think the second part of the question was about the followers, like just the normal folks that support it. I mean, you can see right now in the conflict, there's a lot of pros and, pro the conflict and the war, and some are against it. And everybody's pulling, literally, it's an arm's length transaction on both sides. Everybody's doing their own piece. But then the question, again, throughout history, like you're talking about the analysis of Hitler. And Hitler was just one man, but it's his troops, his generals, his followers were the ones who executed those commands and did what they did. So it's not just him. I mean, sometimes it's almost like the idea is like there's a lot of people that want that, and they just find a good leader for that, and they'll follow. It's amazing.
And Hurricane, what you just said there is very true. In a way, it's like a whole group of people want a leader for their particular cause, right? So let's take the example of Hitler and Germany in the 1930s. because Germany was left in a really bad situation after the First World War, it wasn't just Hitler, but everybody else who wanted Germans to be in a better society again, all right? Once people get into positions of power, ministers in politics, generals in the army, they all have this same energy, right? That I'm going to serve myself and my ideals. And I'm going to tie this into the first question that we answered, the idea of influencers, because we on the internet can influence other people, and we are influenced by different ideas. So what happens is, because we all want to be part of the human herd, you will get a group of people and you just add nationalism to this, and then add a bit of discrimination against some smaller groups in society. And all of a sudden you've got this wave of influence working and working. And the amazing thing about Hitler was how he used radio, the propaganda machine of the time. And look, it was Aldous Huxley in the 1950s who looked at what Hitler did and said, you know what, we are going to head towards a world where we have so much propaganda because we have the technology. And Hurricane, we actually are in that at the moment, because what we're using right at the moment, social media and the internet, can be used for propaganda to influence strongly each of us, so that in the heart, where we have a choice between good and evil, that other people can influence us towards evil rather than good.
Thank you.
Wow,
Doctor.
that's terrible, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's amazing. I mean, first of all, I'm not comparing, Hitler to anyone, even to this conflict. I think it's. I hope that's not going to be to that level of crazy. But
No.
I think the issue here is like, it starts small. It's just two parties, but now you got a lot of involvement everywhere, and people, to your point, have their own opinions across the board. And with the propaganda machine, which is usually the media, which is powerful now with social media, where years back the main machine was also controlled a little bit, but now there's personal influencers everywhere, and everybody's got an opinion. So now it's not just the politicians, it's not the governments, or just the media that is maybe state run, whatever. It's more that the normal person that just sits on a coffee shop somewhere having a nice sip of something. They're the ones also that send in their own influence, which happened even in the pandemic. Vaccine, we had that same conflict, right? So it is just happening across the board. So there's more now than ever, I think, in terms of influence and opinion.
Yes. So what I'm going to do now, Hurricane, is go into the brain of your normal person who sits in a coffee shop and wants to become an influencer or is influenced, right? So one of the most powerful chemicals that motivate us in the brain is called dopamine. Now, usually, Hurricane, you'll hear me talk about dopamine as the chemical that gives us pleasure. But it's not just pleasure. Well, it actually is, but let's broaden the term to motivation. Because if you find a cause that motivates you and gives you meaning in life, you will actually feel this rush of dopamine that makes you feel very alive and very purposeful. And it's the same rush that people get when they are on amphetamines. Now, if you get, let's say, a horde of Vikings that are going to go plunder a village in the 9th century, those people who are about to plunder that village believe that they are doing it for a motivational purpose which suits their own ends. So, unfortunately, they actually feel great, wonderful. They are filled with dopamine. So, all of us are prone to the effects of dopamine. All of us want to be influenced by dopamine because it feels so good when you are with a group of people at, let's say, a nationalistic rally. It's like being with a group of people at a rock concert. It is an amazing amount of pleasure. And the pleasure is, I am part of something big. I am part of this. This is history. And this partly explains why some people will actually give up the choices that they could make in their brains and go with somebody who seems to have all the answers for them at that particular time. So now I want to go to another chemical. The chemical is oxytocin. This is the chemical that mediates love and trust in all of us. The love that a mother feels for an infant is mediated by oxytocin. if we make a business deal and we shake hands and we feel good about the deal we've just made, that feeling is mediated by oxytocin. Now, the thing is that whenever you meet another human being and you make a connection with them and you feel for this person, those feelings are mediated by oxytocin, and you feel kind of together with that person. And the more of those experiences we could have, the less warlike experiences we could have, because it is very difficult to try to kill somebody that you just feel that you've made a good connection with, right? So even when we're meeting people for the first time, a stranger, you shake hands, you share a cup of tea or coffee or ale with them, whatever it happens to be, just some sort of a drink, or you share a meal with them. This is all very relaxing for the brain. And while you've got a drink in your hand, it's hard to go for your weapon, right? So all these rituals that we have among strangers are to get oxytocin flowing so that we can feel that we can move towards friendship rather than enemy. But we can all be influenced by dopamine, by radio, television, or the internet to rile up this idea that there are people out there that are our enemies. And then we actually could go to war rather than have peace on earth. Sorry, it's pretty big stuff, isn't it?
I know. I mean, it's like just amazing. And people does. I mean, we're complex. I mean, we're just complex beings, and those chemicals can have the same effect one way or the other. So it's unfortunate that someone can use that same brain function and apply it in probably not the right way, thinking that is the right way. And that's and again, some people say, well, what is the right way? I'm right, you're right. So now we both kind of are at a crossroad here. We can't even figure it out. So it is tough.
Yeah. It strangely enough, it's not as tough as it actually sounds, okay? Because we tend to think, okay, we've got all these differing points of view, all right? But the idea to do the right thing in life and to do good in life is almost universal. In fact, Sam Harris wanted to argue that is scientifically innate in all of us. But people who want to do the right thing because God tells them to, or people who want to do the right thing because then you get the most amount of good for the most amount of people, or people who want to do the right thing because that's kind of a contract that we made as human beings to live in society together, all of those people actually agreed that it is right to do the right thing. There are very few people that actually believe that it is right to do the wrong thing. Unfortunately, we are still capable of doing the wrong thing. And each of us battle this in a small way in ourselves, rather than just on the world stage. So I'm going to come back again to the brain, all right? Because we have an amazing part of the brain, and it sits right out in front of our brain. It sits right over our eye socket, and it's called the orbitofrontal cortex, which basically means the crusty bit in the front, just over our eyes. And it is this place that, in a simplified way, we make choices. We make choices based on our thinking. We make choices based on our feeling. But more than anything, Hurricane, we actually make choices based on our values. And if we give up that choice to the influence of people on the internet, then we're actually giving up our humanity. So to everybody out there, what I do want to say is keep your orbitofrontal choices. Make choices that you believe are right. And that's why we started with values today, Hurricane.
Doctor, I think we have a call. Thank you for that. I think we have a call here. Give me 1 second. Hello?
Yes, hello?
Hi. Thank you for
Hi,
calling.
this is John.
Hey, John.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
All right. So you're live with Dr. Heim. Let's hear it.
Hi, doctor. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, John.
So I have a question about business, and personally, going to business can be stressful and taxing.
Yes.
Oftentimes, partners have to cooperate and work well together.
Yes.
Sometimes, business and personal gets mixed up. So, how can business partners avoid conflict when facing challenges and hurdles?
Okay, John, that's a really good question, because every businessman has this conflict. If I do well for my business, that means I've got to win and somebody else has got to lose. I got to make a good deal, which means that somebody else doesn't quite get a good deal. Okay. So who was it? Frank Carlson, he wrote a book on game theory, that business is a finite game. It is a game of win and lose. It's like a football game. It's like a hockey game. It's like a swimming competition. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in business, you also have associates, you have colleagues, and you have people who are going to become friends. And when it comes to personal relationships, this is not a finite game. It's what we call an infinite game. So in other words, in a friendship, it's not like somebody wins and somebody loses. You want both people to win. So if the friendship continues, both people are winning. Or in a long-term relationship, if the relationship continues, both people are winning. So the aim in friendships is to make sure that you're happy and your friend is happy as well. And John, in a nutshell, that's basically what I want to say, that as a business person, you have to separate the game of business, which is a win-lose game, from the game of people, which is either a win-win game or a lose-lose game, right? You want to make a good deal in business, but you want to go home and get on well with your family and friends. And this is a big challenge for business, John. But that's probably the best explanation I can give you at the moment.
Are there any like psychological tools that can be used to help reduce some of that conflict?
So the psychological tool is to separate the win-lose game from the win-win game and the lose-lose game. Okay, so in other words, you've got to know when you're doing business, okay, and you've got to know when you're dealing with a human being. And the thing is that in business, of course, this is enmeshed. This is sort of part of everything that you do every day. And so sport actually becomes a great analogy. So if you watch, let's say, a good football game, you'll find out that they will play hard while the game is on. But at the end of the game, what you want to see is people shaking hands, wishing each other well, and saying, that was a great game, all right? Next time I want to beat you, but that was a great game, okay?
Right.
And as long as you can wish everybody a great game, and I'll see you next time and we'll see how we go. Because actually nobody likes people who cheat. Nobody likes people who don't follow the rules, right? And everybody gets really frustrated when one team is winning all the time and everybody else is losing, all right? But that's all part of the game.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good show.
Thanks very much for your question, John.
Thank you.
Dr. John, I just want to interject for a second. So I mean, business is obviously a lot of people. We're always in business. It doesn't matter if you work for somebody. I think there's always a component of you doing business. But I think the issue here is that the win-win-lose happens and all that. But I think we get caught up a little bit in the concept, because it is personable. Sometimes it gets too personalized. And that's the real I think the biggest problem, because I mean we all have it. I mean, even at work conflict happens, and you have to deal with it, and it's not easy, and you get the ego pride going, and sometimes there's factors that are beyond this that can I guess contribute to the challenge and the actual I think we lost our caller here.
Yeah. No, but you're right, Hurricane. And while John is still listening, there are ways of bringing the win-lose sort of thing into a win-win situation. For example, we had to do a lot of travel yesterday. And so what we were going to do was take a taxi to a train station and then take a train home, all right? Because we knew what the taxi fare was going to be home, and it was going to be a lot. And the taxi driver said, listen, if I take you home, you get home earlier and I get paid some money. So that's a win-win situation. And I said, yeah, but it's going to be a lot of money. And he says, if we gave him a full amount of money, he would have won, we would have lost. If he gave us too much of a discount, then he would have lost and we would have won. And he said, hey, listen, Why do we both win here? He found a place to go that says, look, I'll give you this much of a discount. And we said, hey, that's an offer too good to refuse. So we got a taxi ride home for cheaper, but he got a business that he otherwise would not have got. And because he treated us like people, he actually turned a win-lose situation into a win-win situation. So there are those other tricks. And the trick is to do business from the other person's point of view. How can I get to a yes for the other person? And then everybody will be happy. So it can be done, John.
Listen, I admired. I mean, I actually, you're right, and it's all about negotiating and finding that middle ground, and hopefully that can satisfy all parties. But I think, one of the things that happens sometimes, if you have a third party involvement, if you have sometimes debts and it gets financial, maybe that's actually the higher part of business, And as a matter of
Yes.
fact, there's a show that I just finished, and we're going to be posting, and with an attorney, and we talked about like the wills and the living will and trusts and stuff and business planning. And it's pretty, and we're gonna have a couple of series of those, and it's amazing because the stuff that I was learning, I'm like, wow, there's so many things that can happen, and you need to have protection, you need to be able to plan correctly so you don't fall into this conflicts. I think that's the other part that needs to be highlighted here. So
yeah. And so just to finish off on the business, although the business itself is a win-lose thing, if you walk in the other person's shoes for a while, see what they need out of it personally, rather than just a product, then you make a human connection. Then you're actually going into the favorite part of my brain called the anterior cingulate gyrus, and you're using your empathy to make a connection with another person. And when you make that connection and you feel for them as well, then you can go, okay, can I do what I need to do to make a deal here? Because after all, when you make a deal, everybody actually wins. And if you don't make the deal, that's when people lose.
Deal or no deal, right?
Deal or no deal, that's right. Sounds like
funny.
a good game show.
That's fine. I just kept in mind of it. It's amazing. All right, well, Doctor, thank you. So we're gonna change gears here. So I have literally a different angle here. So question states, I am completely obsessed with food and snacks, and I can't control my eating habits. I'm not sure why and how I can stop. I have tried medical procedures, fitness programs, diet, but it seems it has to do with me, as nothing is working. I'm assuming this is a mental issue and not physical. Any guidance that can help? Cherry, Ohio.
Cherry, Ohio. Okay, Cherry, thank you for your question, because this is actually a difficult problem for a lot of people, but actually for all of us somehow. Cherry, the problem is that food is something that gives us the greatest pleasure in all of life. There are not too many things that are actually above food, but because we enjoy that pleasure every day, we tend to take it for granted. So, Cherry, when I get people, and I have had a lot of people come to see me because they have eating problems, binge eating, bulimia, or other eating problems, we look at the cause of that eating problem in that person. And often what happens is when you feel bad, it's an awful feeling for your brain, and your brain hates feeling bad. And so your brain will say to you, this is what we could do right now to feel good. And one of the things that the brain will say to you is eat a carbohydrate. Because, Cherry, if you're like me, I've never seen a carbohydrate that I didn't like, right? So if I have a lot of these, I start feeling good. But there are consequences to that. And what happens is with the consequences, you put on weight, you don't feel good about yourself, you feel bad again. So again, your brain says, I don't like feeling bad, could I feel good, please? And again, it'll get to something like food to make you feel good. And for a lot of people, it's alcohol rather than food. For some people, it's watching porn rather than food. For some people, it is something else that's destructive in your life. Okay, so Cherry, this is the way to go, all right? Just as a principle, what does food do for you? So I will assume that it makes you feel good, even if for a short amount of time. So the question is, what can I substitute for the food to make me feel good? Now, the trouble is that you're not going to find something that feels as good as food. But if you come across something like music, I will get people to listen to 5 of their favorite songs from when they were 12 to 15 to make themselves feel good just for those few moments. If you can get to the stage where you feel good because you are working out in a gym or you're participating in a sport, and afterwards you feel good and you value that, then the idea is you say to the brain, I know you want to feel good with food, but I'm going to find you a substitute. And this is the substitute that'll work. Cherry, just don't make the substitute smoking or drinking or amphetamines, all right? You want to find something good. Playing tennis, exercising, listening to music, patting the cat, taking the dog for a walk. All of those things can feel good. But here's the problem, not quite as good as eating food. But I hope that's a start for you, Cherry.
Doctor, thank you for that. And by the way, I think this is not just Cherry's problem. I think there's a lot of people out there with the same issue here. Food is something that we enjoy, we thrive, we cry, we crave, we want. And I mean, in the fitness world, I mean that's a whole industry, diet and all this stuff, nutrition. And a lot of people actually, especially stress, sometimes can do this, and you know, you can be going through a tough time. It is amazing. So thank you, doctor, for sharing. You know, those specific, you know, I guess insights and guidances. Hopefully that will help, you know, our friend here. So I think we still have some time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Sounds good.
Yeah, all right. So, and folks, you know, don't forget, you know, we're live. Call us 732-332-8493. And, you know, we'll be more than happy to answer if your question, if we don't catch it today, it will be available for the next show. It will be at the end of April, same last Friday, April at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. And if you're in Australia, I think it's 11 a.m. Sydney
Saturday
time, right?
morning.
Saturday morning. That's right. That's
Saturday
right.
morning, that's right.
Yeah, it's the future.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All
We're back
right.
to the future here in Sydney.
You're always back in the future. I love this. All right. Well, so doctor, here's the question. This is an interesting one. And I think maybe some people also will relate to this. I have an issue sleeping every time. Every time I think of something at night. So before bed, it becomes my whole night priority. And that is all I think about, and I can't shut down. Is that a psychological issue? Is there anything that I can do to prevent this? I'm not a fan of drugs, though. Tiffany.
Not a fan of drugs. I'm really
I'm assuming legal ones.
Tiffany, was it?
Tiffany. I'm assuming legal ones.
No, Tiffany says something that's very real. That's a huge problem in our society. And I'm glad that Tiffany doesn't like drugs, because here's one of the bizarre things about human beings, Hurricane. We are the only species on the planet that wants to take a pill to help us sleep, right? All other creatures can sleep and not worry about things. So the question is, why is that? Because what Tiffany is talking about, I experienced that. I have to be careful what I expose myself to just a half an hour before going to sleep, because if it starts a whole new world ticking over in my mind, sleep is going to be more difficult. So why is it that animals don't need sedatives to go to sleep? And one of the general answers is because they tend not to hang on to the past or worry about the future. So if there are some animals that will put together food so that they can get through a winter, they do that what we call instinctively. You won't see a bunch of bears getting together and sort of saying, look, you know, supply of fish is just down this year. What are we going to do about it? They don't worry. They actually just do what they need to do. So that's the first thing for Tiffany, okay? Try to keep your thoughts, particularly an hour or 2 before bedtime, in the here and now, rather than going to the past or going to the future. Because we tend to worry about the past and the future. And Hurricane, I do this a lot, okay? I really need to discipline myself to make sure that I can sleep, because I do tend to worry. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now is say a few things as to how to keep on top of worry. And just a few techniques to get on top of that is, firstly, you're always worrying about something that either may or may not happen. So we tend to worry about things that are bad happen. So ask yourself the question, well, what if the good things happen? What if life works out? What if I've actually got nothing to worry about? And then ask yourself, particularly when you're lying in bed, am I safe right now? You go, well, yeah, I'm at home, I'm in my bed. Right now, I'm safe. And if you focus your thoughts on the here and now, but I mean like right now, I'm ready to go to sleep. Right now, I feel the pillow under my head. I feel the sheets around my body. I feel my pajamas. I'm actually feeling snug. And you keep the focus of your awareness on the surface of your body rather than go down some rabbit hole in your head. And unfortunately, Tiffany, that's a skill. You actually need to practice it to get good at it. It's not that easy. But once you get the hang of it, you'll start to feel good. And then you'll say, brain, we can feel good and we can let go and go to sleep now. Oh, can we? Yeah, we can. Let's see how we go with that. So there's somewhere to start, Hurricane. Keeping your thoughts in the here and now rather than in the past or in the future. And the technique is to keep your thoughts on the surface of your body.
Thank you, Doctor. I just wanted to add, ask a piece of question to this. That does for I know I've read this a couple of times. I think even at a previous show we may have covered it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the technology. I mean, you read that you're not supposed to be on your phone or TV or something, anything with light or
Yes.
blue light, in advance of your sleep. Or like maybe watching a scary movie or something. Too much action because your mind is wide awake. I mean, what that is a big deal. I mean, I think everybody's now tuned into these things, and we sleep next to them. I mean, my kids literally sometimes sleep like watching each other, and they're all sleeping with their friends. They're just it's the live feed is there and whatever it is, but everybody's like
Yes.
snoring. So
Yes.
it's funny. I even see somebody on TikTok. That's actually what they do. Their whole channel. Well, not I don't know about the whole channel, but every time they pop up, they literally just have a screen and they're basically snoring and sleeping. They're not doing anything. But and people are viewing them. They look so imagine that. I think that's a big deal today. I mean, everybody's probably like, well, I wouldn't say everybody, but I think a majority of people are stuck to this new habit. And back in the
Yes.
days when I was a kid, TV ended early.
Yes. Yes.
Now TV doesn't end. It's 24/7, thousands and
Right.
thousands of channels, and you don't even have to go anywhere. You can have all these apps or phones and streaming and stuff, and that's it. That's the end.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So there are a few things in that. Firstly, the question is, why do we as humans know the right thing to do, and yet we won't do it? Right. So this is where I ask people to exercise their power of intention and choice. And that all happens in that part of the brain that we talked about, the orbitofrontal cortex. So you actually need to think, do I want to watch this horror movie just when I need some sleep? Right. And to me, there's a difference between Monday night and Friday night. So Monday night, while I'm still in the front end of the week and I've got to get some work done, I want to get some good sleep. So you say no to your entertainment movies for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night. And then we had this rule in our house that said Friday night, you can watch what you want, okay? Because you've gotten through a week, and Saturday you can sleep in. So we have to have these techniques to help us make choices that are good for us rather than just feels good, because our brain always wants to feel good. And the secret to a good life is if you can match up what feels good with what is good for you, if you can match those two things up, then you've got a winning combination for your brain, and you can be boss in your brain. So that takes a bit of thought.
Thank you, Doctor. I do want to go back to when you started the answer. You talked about that we are the only creation or creature that actually is willing to take a pill to go to sleep,
Yeah.
and not other creatures or species, right? And
Yeah.
and so my question to you is there anything maybe on a non-medicinal approach that people can actually maybe utilize to maybe soothe them? I mean, I know there's these herbal things that you can tease and whatever. I mean, are there any things that you recommend, or like in the world would be something that can be used to help people if they have these problems. At least if they anticipate they're not going to sleep, maybe they can have a little bit of a, I don't know, chamomile or something to just kind of cool them off. I don't know. But what do
All
you
right,
think of
so
that,
Hurricane.
doctor?
Okay, so you just mentioned chamomile, all right,
Yeah.
which was great, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's a herbal substance that does have some anti-anxiety properties, but they're very weak anti-anxiety properties, right? And so your body is not going to get tolerant to it. It's able to actually enjoy it. The most natural thing to help us go to sleep is breathing, relaxation, and meditation. Because once you feel that your brain has the capability to calm yourself down, to breathe deeply, and to relax your whole body, then you know that it's you, right? So if you start using some other herbal treatments to calm you down, and there are some on the market, you still get the feeling that you're using a pill to calm yourself down. So what I like telling the people that I work with is learn some sort of a meditation, even if it's just fresh air in, garbage out. Fresh air in, garbage out. And you do that slowly with each breath. And so you're using about 5 or 6 breaths a minute, which is actually very slow. And if you can do that for 5 or 10 minutes and focus your mind on your breath or on the tip of the nose, and that's a form of mindfulness meditation that I like using a lot, that will stop your mind going through rabbit holes, and you go through each of the muscle groups in your body to tell it to relax so that any built-up tension actually gets released. And that takes practice, but once you do it, it's worthwhile and it actually works to get you to sleep. But I'll ask you to do it for 3 weeks before you decide whether it actually works for you or not. So it's a little bit of effort for a lot of good payoff.
Listen, I mean, there's nothing better than us, right? We have to invest in ourselves one way or the other. And if it's for our better health, I mean, that's ultimately this is what we're doing right now, is to help, ourselves, kind of deal with and cope with, life stuff. But this is a big deal because a lot of people, I mean, I know, for example, personally, if I don't sleep enough hours, I am a zombie. I can't function.
Yes.
And I think sleep is a big deal for our health. I mean, in mental state and physical state.
Yes, so we have many studies to show the benefits of good sleep. It's one of those rhythms that we have to have in place. The study that I want to quote is a study that found that if you get less than 7 hours sleep a night, you are more than 3 times likely to catch the common cold, right? So that links sleep with the immune system very directly. And in these COVID times, it's a good stat to have to say we need sleep. And the thing is that, okay, when you're over 80, you may be able to do with 6 hours sleep. But when you're in your teens, you're actually looking for over 9 hours sleep. You're looking for 9 or 10 hours sleep a night. An infant, of course, can sleep about 18 hours a day. And we need less sleep as we go through life. But for most of us between the ages of 15 and 65, looking at about 8 or 9 hours of sleep is what we actually need.
Listen, I mean, that's people may complain like, oh, I don't have 8 hours in a day to sleep, but you're right. I mean, I think there's nothing for me. Sleep is important. I think everybody can relate to it. Listen to watching today. Good night's sleep there's nothing. And by the way, I don't think daytime sleeping. That's the other thing, and I don't think it's a substitute for nighttime sleeping. I mean, is there a correlation, by the way, from a clinical?
Okay. So there are some cultures that will have an afternoon sleep as well as a night sleep. So yeah, particularly some Latino cultures will sleep for 4 hours in the afternoon and 4 hours at night. And that goes with the human circadian rhythm. So we do have these natural rhythms in our body, and that actually is a fine sleep routine. But if you are not part of that culture, then to have your sleep as an 8-hour block at night, that is totally fine too. But for people who believe that they don't have enough hours in the day, you cannot buy time, you cannot sell time. We are all given the same amount of time, from the President of the United States down to we ordinary people down here, we each get 24 hours. And we each get the privilege to decide how we're going to use those 24 hours. And the thing is that if we had an unlimited amount of time, we would all do everything. But we don't. Time is limited, so we all need to make choices. And it's a difficulty in my life to make choices, to take time out, as well as to be productive and to spend some time enjoying life as well. Some people spend too much time being productive. Some people spend too much time enjoying themselves. And some people have too much dead time when they're doing nothing. But we live in a world of amazing stimulation and amazing possibilities of what we could do with our time. We have to make choices.
Doctor, thank you so much. I mean, it is the end of our the hour here, and I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. Like, you know how I feel about this. Every time we have this exchange, I'm excited. I get a lot of stuff, and it gives me energized for another month. So
That's wonderful, Hurricane.
I learned a few tricks and tips, and I applied them. And I know some people also follow the actual series, and you know they probably are getting some good stuff here. And I've heard some good feedback about them, so I'm so positive about it. But thank you, Doctor. I think that's important to I mean, we're going to close the show, but really, you mentioned something about 24 hours. I think there's plenty of time in 24 hours to do a lot of things and still be productive.
Yeah.
It's just how you organize yourself, how you plan your day in advance. Everything has to be orchestrated the right way, and I think you will get the results you want. No
Yes.
doubt. I mean, even. I mean, there are some business practices that say, "Well, I sleep very little hours a day." I mean, again, that's a prerogative that you know some people may take, but I think a well balanced day between everything, including like some people say, "I don't have time to work out," or "I don't have time to do this." You have time.
Yeah.
I don't have to vacation. You can do the time. I mean, it's just a matter of how you plan everything around, and it's not
Yeah.
always work. It's not just fun. It should be a balance. So. Doctor, as always, it is a pleasure. It's always great to have you and to listen to you and get your insights. And really, it's always an education. So, thank you so much. So thank you for the time, and I guess we'll be talking to you on the next one at the end of April, same
Yes.
time,
Yes,
same
April
place.
the 23rd. That's right.
23rd.
So
Okay.
No,
I haven't-
22nd. Sorry, 22nd for you.
For
For you
us,
people
yeah.
who are behind us,
Yeah. We're the ones that lagging behind. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Doctor.
Well, I
You have
look
a great.
forward to it.
You have a great day. We're gonna have a great night. So.
Okay. Hurricane, you have a great night. We'll have a great day. Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll
And
talk
enjoy
soon.
your sleep and know your values. Okay.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Take care.
Ciao.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Folks, thank you for being with us, for watching, listening in, and hope this particular show was very. It's a wealth of knowledge and tips and guidance. So take it for what it's worth, and then hopefully you can apply. And for those of you folks that called in or sent in your questions, hope you received the message, you received the information that you requested, and put it to play. And send us feedback if you feel that this helped you. Please, would like to hear about it. So thank you so much. Bye for now.